It's even worse than that. It
disseminate it.
Literally threatens their existence, and they know it. There's a spectrum. I mean, when you look at people's politics, there's a spectrum from hardcore statism, fascism on one end, and radical, libertarianism on the other end. And Munger is way, way, way over on the statism side, right? And and he admires China because they have the power to do. I mean, he's one of those people who thinks that certain people are better than others, and therefore they ought to have a larger say in how the world is run. I mean, this is the WEF. I mean, he would fit right in at the WEF.
Charlie Munger, a 99-year-old senior investor, denigrated Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies earlier this month, calling on the U.S. government to outlaw cryptocurrency trading nationwide because it resembled gambling and favored the House. He compared cryptocurrency trading to gambling. Yet investment manager and economist Lawrence Lepard doesn't think that these men's opposition to Bitcoin is based on ignorance. Greg Foss, a well-known Bitcoin advocate, recently spoke with the Bitcoin channel for the working class on the elite's lack of interest in Bitcoin, and how it all serves to forward their grand reset plan. Foss and Lepard also talked about the importance of including Bitcoin in every investment portfolio, particularly for baby boomers who, regrettably, are not as accepting of Bitcoin as they ought to be. This smart and explosive Bitcoin interview might be something you want to skip. Thus, make sure you view the entire video before giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Please feel free to share your thoughts and views in the section below, since we would love to hear from you.
They're both very smart men, okay? I mean, I recently in a tweet said he's stupid because he is with respect to Bitcoin. I mean, he's not a stupid man. I mean, he's made billions of dollars. But he's done it in my opinion, an unethical way by gaming a fiat system. They both have. And, I mean, Dalio is I have some respect for Dalio. I have no respect for Munger. I actually think Munger is a legitimately evil guy. All these people actually think they're in a position to say how the world should be run and that we should all listen to them. And, my view on that is, fuck you. I'm not listening to you. You don't know how the world should be run. Free individuals are what created this world. And the founding documents of the United States are the most beautiful set of governmental documents ever created. And sadly, we've drifted away from them. And if we go back to the initial the founding principles of the U.S., we would be in great shape. But, they've been corrupted by a corrupt system. And sadly, as some of the founders predicted, there are people who figured out how to play the game. Right? I mean, this game's been going on for a long time. I mean, Andrew Jackson knew about it in the 1800s. I mean, there are people who believe that the state should control things. I mean, Mike Green is another one, another asshole that I can't stand. And then there are people who believe that, we all should be free individuals and we should all make our own choices. I mean, my view is the role of government should be to be basically a fair referee and nothing more. Enforce the laws, run the courts. That's it. But Munger doesn't see it that way, and Dalio is a more complicated case. I mean, Dalio is a gold bug. I mean, Dalio sees the monetary debasement. Munger does too. He just doesn't admit it. He likes it because it benefits him. Sadly, the system that we've set up is broken, and it's fiat. The money we all have is programmed to debase, and that's the saddest thing I think about this system. I saw it happen to my dad. Is that you can't really retire and know you're secure. The reason for that is that you can retire with a certain number, and you can think to yourself, okay, that's a pretty big number. I know my dad's was modestly good when he retired. By the time he passed, it had really whittled away because of all the inflation, and it had eaten away at it. And that's Greg's point, that fiat's programmed to debase. And so I would totally agree with what you say, Dan, which is that people who are older have less time to recover. They have a certain amount of savings, and it's nice that you have those savings, but what if gasoline's $50 a gallon and your food bill is 4 or 5x where it is today? You can go from what's a nice middle class existence to really being kind of living on the edge. And sadly, I think that's going to happen to a lot of older people who don't have their eyes open to what part of the cycle we're in. And we'll get into the cycle later, but we're in a very bad part of the cycle for people who are late in their careers. I mean, 30-year-olds, it's like the exercise. 30-year-olds can recover. You can get another job, you can make more money, you got a lot of energy. When you're 70 or 75, I mean, do you really want to be a greeter at Walmart? I mean, I know I don't, Not to put those guys down. They're nice people. They're great people, and I honor them working. But the point is that you don't want to outlive your money, and in a fiat system, we're literally all at risk of outliving our money because the money is broken.
Too many retirees are concentrating on bonds, and that's fine when interest rates have gone for 40 years in one direction, which is from the top left down to the bottom right, interest rates, which means bond prices have gone the other way, and your returns have been very attractive. In 40 years ago, you bought bonds with a 20% yield. I mean, that's true. Now these bonds yield in the 10-year under 4%, the US 10-year Treasury. So it's a markedly different environment for the older approaching retirement person. Here's one of the investing guidelines that I think is going the way of the horse and buggy, where they say take your age, and that's how much exposure in a balanced portfolio you should have to fixed income or bonds, right? If you're 70 years old, you should have 70% bonds, 30% equities. Well, that is a absolute formula for disaster, in my opinion, especially since bonds now have asymmetric downside in return. And as you guys correctly point out, it's a fiat contract that debases. Like, you have a certain amount in there that's supposed to keep account of inflation or compensate you for inflation, but doesn't compensate you for fiat debasement. And that is the problem. So bonds are part of the fiat Ponzi. And I would just say this, given this show is going to talk about Bitcoin, everybody, regardless of age, everybody needs a portion of their portfolio allocated to Bitcoin. The wrong answer is 0. The right answer depends on your age. It depends on your risk tolerance. It depends on your financial savvy. Do learn about Bitcoin, because it is going to change the world, and get an allocation to Bitcoin for your kids. Whether it's for you or not, I don't really give a shit, because you have already taken so much away from the future of our children. You actually deserve, or you have to give something back, you fat, old, lazy boomers like me. Not going to call anyone else, but I'm the fat, old, lazy boomer that has stolen from the future of our children because no one shouted out the fiat Ponzi.
Well,
so I'm shouting out the fiat Ponzi. They're givers and takers in this world, right? And I often say, there's probably in the world, and I'm an optimist, I'd say there's 60% givers and 40% takers, but it's probably, that can flip either way. The good thing about the Bitcoin community is we're 85% givers and 15% takers, is just my own, approximation. And then on Wall Street and Bay Street in Canada, 99% takers and 1% givers, okay? So perhaps the guy I'm calling out most are the fuck-ups that work on Wall Street, like I did, that know that they are takers at the expense of most everybody else in the world, and they don't give a flying how are you, because that's what Wall Street is. Why do you think most criminals go and work on Wall Street? Why? Because it's the easiest place to steal from someone and not break the law. Okay, that is exactly that's the generation I'm talking to, Josh, not your solid citizens who are paramedics and firefighters and first responders. I'm talking to the lazy fucking Ivy League cucks, okay, who go to work on Wall Street and get granted and think that they are somehow, they have entitlements to this type of lifestyle. No, that's who I'm calling out, and I think Larry would agree with that as well.
We're naming them the fiat masters. I mean, and they're easy to see, and they're not even always that smart, but they benefited enormously from a fiat system, and they defend it, and they know that that's why and how they've gotten rich beyond all measure, and it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd, and thank God for Bitcoin, and thank God, that sound money is going to wipe all that stuff clean in this fourth turning. That's the good news.
What do you think of Foss and Lippert's explanation of the blockchain technology's brilliance and the fiat Ponzi scheme? What worries you about purchasing Bitcoin as a baby boomer? Please post your responses, views, and remarks in the space provided below. Be sure to set on post alerts for future videos like this, subscribe to the channel, and indicate your appreciation for this one.